Hi everyone, welcome to another tutorial where I'm going to show you how to make a gorgeous trinket box or gift box or bits and bobs box, which is what I use them for. They're great fun to make. You can make them in any papers you like. I'm using Graphic 45 and I actually made these whilst I was auditioning for them last month. Now, I did give you the news in my last video and I have announced it on Facebook that I didn't actually make it through the second round to become part of the Graphic 45 design team, but I had lots of fun auditioning and I really want to say thank you to everybody for all of their support. If it was up to you guys, I had plenty of luck to get me through, but it just didn't work this time, maybe next year. I did tell you this on a video that I've already made where I showed you how to make a mixed media canvas using lots of Faber-Castell goodies, but unfortunately I'm having trouble with my YouTube channel and I'm really hoping that this actually will upload because that's an issue that I'm having. I've got it logged with YouTube, but I decided to take the video down that was causing the problem and see if I could upload another one, and that is this one. I made a couple of different things during my audition and this is one of them. So I'm going to show you how to make this gorgeous trinket box. I made it in Graphic 45 paper, but you can make it in any of the papers that you've got in your collection. Make it to match your home decor or make it in the colours for the person perhaps you're going to use it for a gift box for. So I've decorated one in these under the sea papers and you can see that one here. This is the one that I'm going to be working on and you can use it to store all manner of objects. You'll be able to use it in your craft room. I thought you could use it for all those little tiny bits and bobs that you find lying around the house. That's what I use mine for. I've got one in every room and those bits and pieces of things that you just think, oh, I can't throw that away because I can't really remember what it's for. These boxes are the perfect thing to hide those away. They work brilliantly on your craft desk too if you've got just the odd brad or the odd button and you really don't want to get up and put everything away in their rightful places. Store them all here and you can do a big clear up in one go once the box is full. So to make each of these boxes, you're going to need at least 2 pieces of contrasting 12 by 12. You can see I've got a tartan and a flowery on this particular box, but I'm going to be using this fishy paper for the actual box itself for this version. So with the pattern that you want to show on the outside of your box against your desk, you're going to take the first 2 corners or opposite corners and fold your piece of paper in half diagonally. So it's worth paying attention and taking your time to make sure that these folds are neat. You need to start with an exact square of paper, so 12 by 12, 10 by 10. The smaller the size, the smaller the box space will be. So the paper that is on the inside is the paper that won't end up showing once you've finished. Then you're going to open that fold and then fold the opposite 2 corners together. So you're in effect making a cross shape across the diagonals of your square of paper. I like to use a bone folder to make sure that those folds are nice and crisp. So you can see I've got like a kiss in the centre of my paper. Now, to make this a little bit easier for yourself, if you've got a particularly patterned paper that you're using, as I am here on the inside, it makes it a little bit difficult just to see where that centre point is that you've created by folding the papers in half. So I suggest you take a pencil and just mark that centre section before moving on to the next set of folds. Once you can see that centre point, it's easy then to take each of the corners in turn and fold them into the centre. Again, pressing down those folds with your bone folder. It's quite important to make these nice and crisp because these will help you form the sides of your box. So I'm working in opposites, making sure that the tips of those corners are meeting right in the middle and then folding the opposite 2 corners. Really making sure that these match up. Now, if you haven't started with a square, you might find this ends up a little bit difficult. Looks like an envelope at that point, and then you can see I've just not quite got that right. Just pressing that back into position and then folding the next corner in so they all meet nicely in the centre. You'll see each time we create another set of folds, we open out our paper and start again. So I'm opening out that second set of folds, and this time I want to fold the corner all the way into the middle, so 3 times. So I'm starting out by folding that point to the line that we've just created as we folded that corner into the center. So I'm just marking it to show you exactly what I'm doing. So I'm marking it along that fold and along that diagonal. That gives me the point at which to fold in that corner. And then I'm going to follow the fold that we've just created, and then I'm going to fold it one more time, making sure that this is nice and taut. Really pull it against the fold so that you get 3 even folds across that piece of paper. And then you're going to open it out, rotate your paper around 45 degrees and mark that point again. Fold into the corner, and then once more, and then once more. This fold should take you back to that center line each time, so, or that center diagonal. And again, rotate your paper, and you're going to do this for each of the 4 corners, and these will help you form the sides of your box. Now you could actually create this with a slightly smaller piece of paper and use this one as your lid, and one will slot inside the other. I'll probably take it down by about 1/2 inch, so perhaps have an 11.5 inch square, and then you'll find that the base fits inside the lid. So this isn't my fold, this isn't probably an origami fold. It was taught to me by somebody at our crop, but the actual way that I've decided to make the lid is my own design. So this base piece you could actually repeat with another piece of paper, and you can pop one inside the other and have a completely folded origami box if you want to. So for the next step, we're going to actually make a couple of little cuts following some of those folds into the shapes that we've started to create. I wanted to show you where we're heading with this. It's a little bit tricky when you're looking at the paper, but this one makes it a little bit obvious. We end up with a square in the center which will form the base of the box, and this is going to allow us to fold up the sides and tuck them into one another, and you'll see how that works in just a moment. So we're going to create those cuts first. So what we're going to do is find where that corner of that center box is created with all the fold lines that you've got. This just will help you make sure you don't make a mistake. So I'm just finding the corners of each of that center square that we've created by the folds that we have made so far. So you can see that there's the center cross that we made right at the beginning, and then we've got the 4 corners marked out. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut down one of my folds, and I found it a little bit easier to work on this side, and you keep cutting until you get to that center square, like so. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. So you're creating a bit like an arrowhead once you see this section released. So you can see that's the edge of that center square, and that's like a little arrow. That's what I'm calling it anyway. And then you're going to work on the opposite side and do exactly the same thing. So cutting down the fold and stopping when you hit the edge of that center square, or the corner of that center square. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. So you've got 2 pieces and you can see there what I would call the arrowheads on the opposite sides when I move that paper out of the way. So working with the arrowhead side, you're going to fold that point into the corner and then fold what will become the side of the box. So the points go into the corner first, and then that next fold forms the side of the box. And you can see how all of that paper that's on the opposite side of your paper that you've chosen will gradually be covered up as you complete this fold. So these pieces are going to come in and be tucked in to form the sides of your box. So I like to add a little bit of glue to the points that fold into the corner and one of the points that's going to form that fold for the sides, and you'll find that one will tuck inside the other, and that glue will just hold things in place. Glue actually isn't necessary if you do this and perhaps just want to use this as a little origami box, but because I'm going to be using this as a bit more of a long-term box, I'm actually going to use the box. That's why I like to use the glue and make the lids the way that I'm going to show you, or the lids and the base. So you can see I'm tucking one piece inside the other. That little bit of glue will just hold things in position. Spend a little bit of time making sure that your corners are nice and sharp and that your box is folded evenly into a square. So then you're going to take the third side and wrap it over the two tabs that you've just joined together, and it again should form neatly or fold neatly into the inside of your box and cover that centre section. So adding a little bit of glue to that triangle that's going to sit at the base of your box and pop that into position. So everything's covering up nicely. Now this is the portion where you're going to be attaching your lid. So you're going to cut a slit in the fold that's nearest the base of the box. So find the base edge and then you're going to come out one fold and roughly leaving about 1/2 inch. Be a little bit careful how you do this, and cut from one side to the other. So I like to use my ruler. I've just made two little marks, roughly 1/2 inch. You can see this is the first fold from the base section of the box. So cutting exactly on the fold, making sure my ruler's in the right position, and cutting, leaving a 1/2 inch at each end of the cut. This is where we're going to tuck in our lid section, or attach our lid section. Again, a little bit of glue on that triangle, and just be a little bit careful because obviously you've made this a bit delicate now by cutting through that fold and fold into position. And that's the base of your box. And imagine making two of these, one slightly smaller than the other. You could pop one inside the other and you've got an origami box. So to make the lid and the base of the box, you're going to need a contrasting piece of paper, or the same paper if you want the lid and the base to be the same as the box that you've just built, and two pieces of chipboard that are 4 3/4 inches square. And these two pieces are going to form the base and the lid of your box. So you're almost making a box sandwich. To cover these two pieces, you want to cut two 5 3/4 inch squares of paper, and you're going to attach a piece of chipboard into the centre. So I use PVA glue. I recommend using glue rather than double-sided tape, particularly if you want these to last. I find that double-sided tape does dry out over time, whereas glue stays secure for longer, And I've had the original boxes that I made for quite a number of years now, so I'll show you a photograph of those at the end, and they do wear well, so it's worth using the glue, I think, rather than the double-sided tape. So make sure that those pieces of chipboard are right in the centre of your pieces. You're obviously sticking it to the wrong side of the paper, and then you're going to make 4 little cuts. I like to use my ruler to make sure that I'm getting them in the right place. And you can see I'm rotating my chipboard, and I'm making a series of 4 cuts each time I rotate 45 degrees. And then I'm going to work in the opposite direction, and this has the effect of removing a little square from each of the corners of the border of paper that you've got showing on the outside of your chipboard. So really we're preparing to wrap this piece of chipboard. So 4 little squares removed, and we're ready to start wrapping. I like to work in opposites. It works quite well. It means that you can mitre the corners. So the first 2 pieces you can add your glue to and wrap over the edge of your chipboard. Make sure it's nice and tight, and spend a little bit of time just holding on to it and making sure that it's glued down. You could run your bone folder over this area if you want to make sure it's nice and flush with that edge of the chipboard. So now we're going to create the sort of mitre effect. It just makes things neat. It's not completely necessary, but it looks nice when it's done. So I'm marking each of the corners at a 45-degree angle and snipping away the excess. I will zoom you in closer in just a moment, but you can see I'm marking from where the papers overlap to the outside corner to get my angle. You'll have seen me do this on other projects that I've wrapped in paper. It's quite a nice neat finish and avoids having too much bulk of paper at the corners. And again, you can then, once you've removed those little triangles of paper, finish the wrap by folding those opposite sides over to cover what could be the base or the lid of your box. So in this instance it's going to be my base. So just, if you've got any pencil marks, remove them at this point. And attach the base. Again using your PVA glue. I'm just having a look at the shell pattern to make sure that it's the same way round as the lid will be. So if you've got anything directional, make sure that you've got it going the way that you want it to. Making sure that there's plenty of glue on that outside edge and some glue in the centre so that you get a good bond. And spend a little bit of time, really look over from the top of your box. I'm going to stand up to do this. You can see my little head poking in. Oh, must do my roots. And make sure that everything's nice and even. You can measure it if you want to, but I'm just doing it by eye. And then give it a really good press down inside while that glue is setting. Make sure you get right into the corners and along those edges to really secure that origami folded box to the chipboard base. While that's drying, you're going to finish off the lid. So you're going to again cut away those little 4 corner pieces. And you're going to glue down the 2 opposite sides. So now I'm going to zoom in so you can see the marking of the corners. You can see here how I have marked the corner from that inside where the papers cross over to the outside point, and you're going to do that for each of the 4 corners. I did this once, but I realised I was off camera, so I've come in to do it again, but it's quite good because you can actually see exactly where I'm drawing the pencil line. And then you're going to remove that little triangle and you will get a neat mitered corner once you wrap these 2 little tabs over to finish covering the lid of your box. Again, make sure you remove any pencil marks because you will be able to see this when you open your lid, and then it's time to add your glue and stick these 2 tabs down. You can see how neat that is. And that's what's going to form the lid of our box. But you need to think about a few things here. One is if you're going to create a little dangly closure or opener, depending on which way you want to look at it, like I have here on this box, any kind of decoration that you might want going through, for instance brads going through your box, you need to do this before you attach your lid. So I found this little dangly piece which is off a piece of old jewellery, and I'm going to attach that with a jewelled brad. So you can see now how the orientation of my shells on the base, I made them match the shells on the top, as you can see here. So we want to create a little hinge to join our lid to our base. Depending on the way you've cut your lid pieces, you need to create a hinge. Now that can start out as a piece that measures 7 inches by 1 inch, which is what I'm doing here, but it could equally be a piece that's 2 inches by 3.5 inches. But either way, you fold them in half, glue them together. This makes them a little bit more sturdy, and you end up with a piece that measures 3.5 inches by 1 inch. Once that glue is dry, you can fold the piece in half lengthways. So with the piece in the landscape position, fold it in half, and this forms your hinge. So by folding or gluing the 2 pieces together, it gives you something that's a little bit more sturdy as you're going to be opening and closing this. And just check that it's going to fit into the slot that you've created. You might need to either trim the strip or just open up that little slit that you created when you were folding your box, and that is going to sit and be glued into this position so that you can attach your lid. So add glue to both sides of one half of the hinge, the piece that's going to tuck inside, and add a little bit of glue to the sections inside your box. So you can either pop this into the front or into the back, it's entirely up to you. I'm going for the front section and then closing all those pieces together. Now it's important to get that hinge nice and flush with the top edge of the box if you want your lid to sit flushly against the edges of the top of your box structure. So spend a little bit of time neatening that up and making sure that's well stuck into position before you try attaching your lid. Before we do that, we're going to think about covering the inside of the box lid and adding our closure. So before you attach your lid, you need to think about what you're going to do with it. I always like to add a little dangly closure or opener, depending on which way you're using it. And you also need to think about what you're going to cover that inside piece with, because you'll be able to see this once the lid is open. I've cut a 4-inch contrasting square to cover up the inside of my box, but you could use the same paper if you want to. So now we're going to add some glue to the top of the hinge, and now you want to spend just a little bit of time centering again the lid. I've turned it upside down, centering the lid on the box itself. Once you're happy where it is, you can pop your hand inside the box. You can see I just tilted it slightly, press down on the hinge, and your lid is ready. Once you're happy that it's exactly in the right position, you can spend a little bit more time just really pressing that down while that glue dries. So if you've got any looseness at the corners of the paper and you want to fold those down, just add a little bit of glue and press down on those corners. And that just tidies up the edges of your boxes. You can see how lovely these are, and I'm not going to show you a full decoration of the box because I just think these are such fun that you can play and do exactly what you want according to your taste. But I've given you the basis of making these boxes for yourself. They're quite addictive, I will tell you that, and I like to add a little closure, so I'm going to do that. Any kind of brad work you want to add now to your box, so if you're going to attach flowers with brads and things like that, you want to do that before you add that contrasting piece of paper to cover the inside of the lid. So I'm finding the centre and I'm roughly 1/2 inch back from the front of the box, making a little pencil mark and being careful not to push the pokey tool through where my fingers are, adding a little hole so that I can attach this little drop. It could be part of a necklace, you could make a little tassel, anything you like really. It just adds a little bit of a decorative closure. You can use it to open and close the box so you don't get greasy finger marks on your box through time, and you can just lift this up with your little droplet. And the other thing is with having this, it just adds a little bit of weight onto the end and makes sure that box sits nicely closed. So if you've finished adding any kind of brads, anything going through the top of the lid, then you can attach your 4-inch square of decorative paper to finish off your box lid. So make sure you avoid the fold of the hinge and press everything down, and that is your box finished. It couldn't be simpler, and it is a great way to make either boxes for your home to do what I do and hide all those little bits and pieces, or you could put a little gift in this for a friend. So for this mermaid box, I added one of the little pictures from the Graphic 45 papers and then just decorated with pearls and jewels to match the little droplet that I'd found. I've added a little heart-shaped necklace drop onto the closure of this box and then added some pearl trim and some little butterflies that I trimmed from the paper itself. I did add some glossy accents to my butterflies just to make them a little bit more sturdy on the top of the box. So for some more design ideas, these were the original boxes that I made all those years ago, probably between 5 and 8 years, but if you know your K&Co paper collections, you might be able to date these better for me or more accurately for me. You can see I made different beaded closures and added flowers and brads and things to those already beautiful papers, and they have sat collecting bits and pieces on my side for quite some time. Very rarely actually do they get looked in, so when I looked in the one that was in my front room, I was quite surprised to see it was a little bit of a memory box of the time when I redid my front room. So I had like a paint chip strip of paper, some fabric swatches, the contact details for the man that fitted the blinds, that kind of thing. So that's what was in this little box. And then I also had one which was on the windowsill in my bedroom, and that had been collecting buttons from various new pieces of clothing, you know, the spare buttons that come in little packets. I have no idea what that red thing is, and so that probably needs to be chucked out. And that grotty bit of tissue is what we use when it's windy and we've got our bedroom window open, because the closure rattles a bit, so that stops it from rattling and waking us up. I really hope you give these a go and make little trinket boxes for yourself, or catch-all boxes as mine are. You could use them for jewellery if you want to. You could give them as gift boxes and pop little presents inside. They really are a fun and easy make, and you can use any of the papers that you've got in your collection, make them suit your home decor or the person that you're giving them to. And don't forget, if you make a little gift box like this, you could also make a little card to match. The sky's the limit really, so I really hope that you've enjoyed the tutorial and that you press the subscribe button, the like button, the share button, and I look forward to crafting with you again very soon. Stay tuned to the end of the video for a little treat, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Till next time, thank you for watching. So as usual, a couple of links for you. This one is to my Graphic 45 playlist, so you can see all the fun that I've had in various auditions or other pieces that I've made using Graphic 45 paper, including these really useful video boxes. Check out the video and see what I made with those. At the beginning I mentioned the sad news that I didn't make it onto the Graphic 45 design team, but later that day this happened, and I was thinking that this really brave robin in my garden might actually feed out of my hand. These are some photographs that I took of his first visits onto my hand to pick up some dried mealworms, but we soon found that he would much rather have the real variety, and this is him probably a week or so later now, and he is quite happy to come when I call him, give him a little whistle, and you can't actually see his babies. I've seen 2 of them, there might be more, and he is popping off there to go and feed them. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear the soundtrack. When he comes back this time, I'll be quiet and see if you can hear the babies in the background. That high-pitched sound in the background, a bit like cicadas, was the sound of the babies in their nest. They actually are quite big. If I get any footage, I will definitely share that with you. And I wanted to leave you with this parting shot because it was quite funny. He got down to the last mealworm on my hand, and I did think he was going to show his disgust for a minute there when he turned his back, but luckily he behaved for the camera. Look at him, little scruffy thing. See you again soon.